Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Golden Podcast. I'm your host, Spence Pentland, and this is where we have interviews with world-class TCM community leaders so we can discover their stories, habits, psychology, and secrets that led to their success. And today we have the honor of being here with Angela Tisci. Tisci.
Tisci.
Yes. Damn, that's try number 3, but I got
Get
it. Anyway, thank you so much for agreeing to come on the podcast.
Of course.
Excellent.
My pleasure.
Excellent. Well, I'm going to just fly through a little bit of the CV that Angela sent me, and this is our first time meeting too, so I'm excited to dive into getting to know you a little bit better. Like I said, I've seen you on Facebook some, and I think that what you're doing is great. Your intention seems really, really pure and happy, and that's a reflection of you, I assume. But Angela got her acupuncture license in 2000. She's just telling me how much she's seen change since then, which is mostly positive, I think. She said, what were your words? Everyone knows about acupuncture now, at least, so that's great. Most people have an acupuncturist. So you practiced for quite some time, got a Therapeutic yoga certification in 2014, and since then it seems like really have dove into health coach training, transformational coaching at the mastery level, and money marketing and soul coaching, which is really great. You are the CEO and founder of the Integrative Fertility Institute, which is near and dear to me as well. Fertility sport and professional fertility coach training center, which is what that is. You are also the CEO and founder of AcuBizConsulting, which we'll get into today, helping entrepreneurs, particularly acupuncturists, I assume, create educational programs and high-ticket offers that support a bigger mission to change the world in a positive way. Conscious capitalism you use, that's great. And you're also the creator of EcoFertility, the EcoFertility method, Preconception program since 2013. And you hold business adventure retreats yearly, which is for entrepreneurs to help bring their business to the next level, which is fantastic. I love to hear a bit about that. And all these things, if you stay or check out the show notes, you'll get links to all these things too. So we'll drive you back to getting more information from Angela here. Since 2000, you practiced at the Zen Space in Portland. Yay, Portland. Woot. Love your city. I think half of my guests have been from Portland so far, now that I think about it. Well, you and Brad and Jason, anyway.
Yeah.
The other half, New York. Woodstock Wellness Center in Portland as well from 2006 to present. The Integrative Fertility Institute online, and AcuBizConsulting has been going for a while too. That's online coaching and consulting, primarily for acupuncturists, but I assume you work with wellness folk, period.
Yeah, it just kind of evolved that way for sure.
Yeah, great. So, like I said earlier, discover the stories and habits and psychology. But to rewind back to the story, so like I said, most of us don't come out of high school and enter into Chinese medicine, because the undergraduate requirements for most of our programs, and so we come into Chinese medicine with a history, and I love to get the story, a little bit of what brought you there, and then from there, what kind of brought you to where you're at now?
Yeah, well, I studied psychology in my undergrad, and I think back in undergrad days, I always wanted to be a psychologist. I wanted to help people on a deep level and change their life. When I found out that I worked in the field for a while after undergrad and realized quickly that I did not want to do that. There's a lot of bureaucracy and rules and all of these things that you have to follow. And being myself, I'm not too hip to the rule following. So it wasn't a good match. When I was looking for, okay, so what are my other options, right? Graduate school, I was interested in medicine. I was interested in energy work and really tuning into how we could change the vibration of our physiology using everything from sound to neural beats, just all kinds of things. A lot of my experience was in music, and being exposed to how music really changes the way you feel, the way you the way your body responds. So I started going down the rabbit hole of quantum physics and all of these things that were really kind of just coming out around that time and becoming popular. And when I found acupuncture and oriental medicine, I was like, oh my gosh, it's like I can stick a needle in someone and change their physiology. I don't even have to talk to them. And that was really amazing because I was like, wow, this is going beyond, it's like removing the barrier of having to go through a process to be able to change physiology, right? Like you can just stick a needle in someone and they don't have to believe it. They don't have to care.
Right.
It just works. And so that was really fascinating to me. I was like, oh my gosh, I can study this like in a physical realm, because I was looking into like, well, how can I research, this energy thing that I'm really interested in. And it was so perfect when I found the acupuncture and oriental medicine. I was more interested in the energetics of it. Right. 'Cause to me, that was like the least, it was like, what's the least we can do to make the biggest impact, right? And that's kind of how I want to run my business too, and how I want my whole world to be, is what's the least amount we can do to make the biggest impact. So that's kind of how that came about. And it was just a perfect fit for where I was at the moment in time where I came across it,
That's a great quote. That's what's the least amount of output you can, manifest to manifest the most, impact on the world. That's fantastic. I love that.
Right. There's actually there's a metaphor, right? It's like small hinges swing big doors, right?
Nice. I like that.
Yeah.
It's the Shaoyang, it's the pivot, it's the liver gallbladder, right? Anyway.
Yeah.
Awesome. So you studied. Where did you study? You studied in Portland, or?
I studied in Portland, at OCOM.
Okay, and then you got your license in 2000.
Yep.
Yeah. So backing up a little bit, what do you think were your influences that got you to be so interested in the realm of energy and more mind body spirit healing? Was it something from your mom or I don't know.
Truthfully, it was a boyfriend that I had at the time. So he was a metaphysical preacher, and so we would do a lot of meditation and journeying, and we were young, so that whole world was so interesting to me, to be able to meditate for long periods of time and be able to tap into your subconscious and figure things out in this way. So I was definitely interested. We would spend a lot of time across from each other meditating, and kind of just going on these journeys. And I think that's what really got me into it. And he was also a musician. Yeah. So we did a lot of like, these binaural beats and like how that changes physiology, researching, how, the Tibetan monks and the sound that they would make and how that changes physiology. I mean, there's actual research on this stuff that's really quite fascinating. Even this whale sounds. I mean, that's why they use all that stuff in the meditation CDs, right? Because it actually does work to help calm the nervous system down. So,
right. Well, ultrasound can image inside our body, so it's clearly a way to tap in somehow. Sound, My wife as well, music, and how can you deny things like music evoking feeling and emotion and healing, just like smell, just like, all these things. So it was undeniable. So, okay. So fast forward from boyfriend to 2000, you're done school and this is 2000. Okay. Y2K, I'm dating myself. I understand all that, but what a different world. Like you said, you graduate now, and the people that are graduating now from Chinese medicine school are like, okay, well, here's my options. And you were like, I don't have any. What do I do?
I'm going to start a business. Yeah. So it was funny because when I first got out of school, I was like, okay, well, I clearly need to get a job to be able to like function. And there was 0 acupuncture jobs. That wasn't even around. Right. And so I started teaching homeschool to an autistic child. I was actually fortunate to find this really amazing family that I worked with that paid me very well to watch their autistic child and teach him, just homeschool skills and stuff. So that really allowed me to open a practice.
Right.
So I worked there part-time, and then I built my practice part-time. And about a year, 9 months to a year later, I was like, okay, I can quit my job and do this full time. Like it just happened pretty organically in that way.
Right. So you were in Portland.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So what kind of office did you step into at that time? Were they like, you're a what? You're an acupuncturist? Really? Okay. Can you pay rent? I don't care. Or where were you?
Yeah. Well, I paid rent for a little while, and then the person who owned the business decided to sell it to the three of us that were there. So we actually purchased the business. It was a spa, actually.
Okay. You're right.
So it wasn't they didn't even have acupuncture in there. I actually begged them to let me in there. I was like, I really like this office. I really think you need acupuncture here. Let me be in here somehow.
Yeah.
And finally they were like, okay. And that was literally like right before 2001. So it was that year that I graduated.
So not a lot has changed. I mean, a lot of people still would consider entering into a spa, and I wouldn't even discount that, because I mean, it's full of women and women talk, and here's a great clientele base because most spas are pretty full of women either doing their nails or relaxing and wanting to be well on some level, right?
Yeah, well, in this particular spa, it was just so beautiful. I was like, I have to work in this place. It was so amazing. I mean, and I think environment for me has always really been really important. Just how I surround, what does my space look like? How does it make people feel when they come in? So that was always really important to me. So I was like, yes, this is it. Right. And it was, I had this giant room with chairs and a table, and then eventually we evolved, and I had to build walls because I needed more rooms. And, it became this like, okay, how can we maximize this space as much as possible to fit more people in there? Because we got super busy.
Yeah.
So.
And then, actually make a profitable company from the whole thing.
Yeah.
You talked about, I mean, a lesson we could all take from spas is the emphasis they put on experience. Mm-hmm. When women walk in, and I know you and I both, our practices primarily focus on women trying to start their families or struggling with fertility. And that's usually a demographic somewhere between 28 to 45-ish. Mm-hmm. And yeah, those are people that, want to feel comfy and cozy and like they're walking into a clean, inviting, warm environment. And I think that should translate into basically whatever demographic of patient that you're seeing. And do you agree with that?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, sometimes we're the only time that people actually take a break. Yeah. Like, this is it. This is that. I had a patient actually yesterday who was laying on my table, and literally, I don't think she has laid down and did nothing ever, like on purpose. Right. And she was like, she was like, kind of brushing me off, like I didn't need to even come back and treat her, because she was like, I'm good just laying here. And I was like, no, I think I'll actually treat you. But still, like, it's funny to think, like, gosh, some people really, they just never take the time to pay attention to what their needs are, and that they might need that, that you gotta normalize the system, every once in a while. That's what I always say when I stick needles in people. I'm like, I'm just resetting the button, like on your computer. It's like, you got to reset that, and if you keep just doing stuff, it's going to get all messed up, just like we've all had it happen, right? Your computer just gets overloaded with all this stuff and viruses and who knows what. It's like, you got to hit the reset button on that. The more you hit it, the cleaner things are and the better they are. So
the smoother it runs.
Yeah.
I love that analogy of reset, because hitting the reset button, that is something that I use with them as well. But I say this to patients, and I believe it as well, that you just laying there, and I'm going to make sure you do, so I pin you down.
Right, exactly.
Literally is where half of the healing starts, because
sure.
I think for the most part, it's people come to us and they end up learning again. It's like, oh, I'm here. I thought this was relaxation, but this actually is. Yeah. Right? And so that's great. And anyway, so you can you tell can you detail a little bit more about your progression? So what kind of associates came into your clinic? Was there Was it acupuncture as well, or did you
We
have?
had acupuncture, massage, and we did have a esthetician for a while, and then she left, and it just was acupuncture and massage.
Right.
That was our main thing. We did, after a few years, built this amazing, beautiful foot bathroom where people could
Nice.
come and get foot soaks and foot massage
Oh, that's
and
awesome. That's awesome.
foot reflexology, and just like really, it was a great way for people to just transition from like, this relaxation, and then they'd go into another room and get a massage, and then go into
Right.
another room and get acupuncture. I made these amazing, beautiful, like 3-hour experiences for
Yeah.
people so that
Okay.
they could get, we do like a herbal body wrap and a massage and an acupuncture treatments, lots of dry brushing and things that we would be like, you should
Right.
go do these things. We
Yeah.
just, we
Yeah.
just would do them at the clinic. So yeah, it was this
Wow.
fun way to kind of mix it up. I get bored easily at work, so
Yeah.
I was like, how can we make something really cool
Yeah.
that we
Yeah.
can, patients would love it, and they ended up being like, a little higher ticket items,
Yeah.
so my
Yeah.
always goal was always, how can I, again, work less and make more?
Right.
So these experiences allowed me, I learned very quickly that people would pay out of pocket for massage and foot
Right.
baths, like that's just customary, but when
Right.
you kind of transition into the medical field, there's this, insurance realm, and insurance is really popular out here for people to have coverage for acupuncture.
Right.
So, that became very clear. People wanted to pay $25 for the acupuncture, but they would pay $90 for a massage. And I was like, what's going on
Yeah.
here?
Yeah. Yeah. Something's
Something's a little funny about this situation.
gotta
So
change this.
yeah, so I started creating these, bigger packages for
Yeah.
people. So, which it's funny, I never really thought about that, but yeah, that's kind of like who I was way back in the day, and
Right.
funny that
Right.
I'm doing that now. That's
Right.
kind of funny.
Well, it, maybe there's we get into things with this ideal, and who we are. It's authentic. And
Yeah.
then we have to learn, and we have to be, we get trained, and we try to maybe emulate people that we aren't, and to create success or whatever
Yeah.
it is. And then once that success comes, we realize, oh, I can and should be myself more again. So it's more relaxing, enjoyable, and fulfilling for me as well. And
Yeah.
patients respond really, really well to that.
Yeah, well, and I think you're hitting on, a really interesting thing that's happening right now in marketing, is that people want that authenticity. They want that. They want the real you. They don't want the fake you, They don't want the you that you're trying to be. They want to really connect with people and not ideas or systems in that sense.
Or just regurgitating someone else's stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's and it's there's a need for it, but it's not my lane. At least is not to just kind of reiterate how to use Facebook ads or whatever it might be. It's it's some timeless principles that we need to we always need to understand and step into, and that is just me being me. And from everything that I know you're doing, you're clearly being yourself. You're just by the way you dress and you present yourself to the world, you're clearly being yourself, and that's why I think that you'll do great, and you'll attract your tribe, not someone else's.
For sure. I learned that very quickly, for sure. I think in any sort of business, when you start, especially with internet access nowadays, when you're putting yourself out there, you get so much more feedback so much more quickly. It's like you get instantaneous feedback. So really well, like who you want to connect with. Like it becomes very clear. And the more clear your message is, the more you're going to attract those ideal people who want to hang out with your idea. Because in all intents and purposes, I was marketing in the beginning for a lot of people trying to just get as many patients as possible into their clinic,
Right.
which was great. And I did that for a long time, and I can do that. But then I realized very quickly it was kind of the same thing over and over again. Right. And I was like, well, but I'm a creator. That's my gift, is that I can create things out of nothing. I'm very good at leveraging and figuring out how people can take what they already are doing into how can they maximize that very quickly. Right. So yeah, the interesting shift in my message came when I started, really wanting to attract those people who were change makers. They're out there wanting to really change things in the way that they're done, not just do the same thing as everyone else, because business is pretty simple, right? Like it's not complicated. People overcomplicate it all the time, but you got to get clients in the door and then you got to keep them.
Yeah. The lifetime relationship.
It's pretty simple, and I think where I shifted was like, okay, I did that for a long time and had a busy practice. And then I was like, okay, now how can I do like, what else is there? Like when you reach a certain level of success, you're like, okay, well now what? How can I grow? How can I keep growing? Because for me, I'm kind of going down the rabbit hole of how I came to where I am now. But when I was super busy, I was like, okay, now I'm still stuck in this pattern of trading my time for dollars and not being able to expand other than bring on more associates. And so I built another clinic, brought on more associates. I just kept building this thing and making it more efficient and making it grow. And then I was like, but there was something still not quite right with it that I wanted more. I wanted a bigger impact. I was like, I'm still only able to be right here because I was spread a little bit too thin, trying to manage 2 clinics and run a full practice and then grow and learn. I was like, I need more space. Right. I was like, I need more space and time in my life to be able to do what I wanted to do. And I had 2 kids and just got to a place where it's like, wow, like what are the other options out there? And so I started looking. I became the seeker myself. I was like, what else is out there? What else can I do to make the impact that I want to have, but also, have that not be all encompassing of my life of having to work all the time, because I have 2 kids and I want work-life balance. I love to play in the mountains. I love to go river rafting and I love to enjoy my life here. This is why I'm here. Yeah. So how could I have both? And that's when I created the EcoFertility method. And that was my first kind of higher end program that I offered in my clinic. Right. And it was life-changing. Awesome. It was life-changing immediately because I realized very quickly that people wanted it and they would pay for it. And also realizing I was like, I don't have to do this just in the clinic. I can do this anywhere.
Right.
So,
So you're clearly an entrepreneur like that.
Right.
It doesn't take long. I mean, you are defining yourself very clearly to me. And I get it because that is myself. And you also, our journeys are quite similar, but for those out there that aren't aware of your EcoFertility method, what can you give the elevator pitch, just a Cole's notes on how what it is and why you gave birth to it? No pun intended.
So, right. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So the biggest thing was finding that there was a need in my practice for people wanted to talk about their stuff. They wanted to go deeper into, why am I not good enough? Why is my body not working? What's wrong with me? They kept asking these really deep kind of questions that were not being addressed in my practice in a way that I thought was effective. Right. There was also a lot of really simple things that I felt like everybody should know that, we'd tell them in the first visit or tell them in the second visit, then they'd forget. Or like, I'd give them a handout and then, they wouldn't do it or wouldn't follow through. Right. Or they'd come in and they need to lose 10 pounds. They can't. All of these like kind of more lifestyle and behavior issues that were not being addressed as effectively as I wanted them to be in the clinic. And I realized very quickly that, I should just have something that just addresses that. So that's where that came from. The EcoFertility method is based on 4 main areas that we address. One is the physical health, the mental health, the financial health, and the spiritual health. Because those are the ones that people most likely are dealing with when they're looking to get pregnant, right? I mean, and everybody always is like, why did you put the financial one in there? And I was like, well, have you ever tried to have a baby? It's very expensive. And money is one of the biggest stressors that we have as a society. So yeah, that's kind of where that was born from, is really wanting to give people more of an experience versus just treatments.
Right. Okay. I got a couple things that I want to rewind to a little bit, but do you find that with people you work through, I know what happened with me, that there's we get into acupuncture likely more from a mental, emotional, spiritual, seeking out more energetic styles. Otherwise we'd be Western physicians. But and then once we learn and we get into it, we tend to move, or a lot of practitioners tend to move into the mechanics, like you start just focusing on that one treasure, the jing, the physical body and the mechanisms in it, and fixing that. And then as you get experienced or bored with that, or see it's like that's got its limitations, you move back more into that spiritual realm, and even financial, mind, body, spirit, financial. It does matter. We're fee for service,
Yeah.
And do you find that that's a normal progression for a lot of people, as we're learning our craft, maybe?
I definitely think so. I think it's very similar to yoga practice or meditation, right? Like you first start in the physical realm, and then as you start with the physical practice, and then as you get deeper into the practice, it becomes less physical and more psycho-spiritual, and where are you, who are you being in this world, is more important than what you're doing. Right. So yeah, definitely.
And that's where trusted, in my humble opinion, it's where trusted medical practitioners need to dive into more, and I love it. Especially with fertility. I mean, most of my practice now is I get the mechanical side out of the way and put systems in place to try and bring that back into balance. But then that connection you make with the patient, so you can talk about, are you being grateful? Are you praying? Are you meditating? Are you, how can we help you cultivate perseverance and surrender and having faith in the path that you're on, and all these things that come with, and this is a segue to my other question, a confident practitioner maybe. And because that's, people almost come to us expecting that level of esoteric nature in our practice, but to prove ourselves as a profession, maybe we've had to abandon that, at least at the start, with a patient some, and speak more medically and gain trust. So it's a bridge. But once you get experienced and confident, you know how to bridge that with a patient. But rewinding back about confidence, when someone's just starting out or early into their practice, something that I found, and you've had associates in a couple clinics similar to myself, is that when someone's relatively green or brand new out of school, the confidence is such a hurdle of being in the treatment room, because patients feel it.
Yeah.
And so do you have you helped people through that, associates probably, or people that have asked you for coaching?
For sure. And I think the best thing that I could ever tell anyone is be the person that you want to treat.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, be that person. Like, if you are reflecting out into the world that you want your patients to, have good lifestyle and eating well and doing all of the things that you are expecting them to do, then you need to be doing those things. You need to hold yourself at this high level of being, because that's what they're interacting with, right? If you're frazzled and you're not taking care of yourself and you're, burning your candle at both ends, like, you're going to attract those clients, and then you're going to wonder why they're not following through with your treatment plans. You're like, it's like, come on, like, let's get real here about what it's like parenting. This is where I love treating fertility clients, because I think there's this beautiful parallel that with treating the client as they're trying to get pregnant. I'm like, this is a direct reflection of how you will parent. Right. How you're dealing with these really big obstacles is how you will deal with your child when they're screaming and yelling at you because they didn't do their homework and they don't want to. And they don't want to hear it from you. It's like So how you take care of yourself is how you're gonna take care of your child. So it's that reflection, right? Like you can't. It's like you don't not take care of yourself and then yell at your kids for not eating their vegetables. It's like, you have to drink the Kool-Aid yourself. It's important.
Walk your talk, hey.
Yeah.
That's great. That's great because it's fact. Because people obviously, everyone that talks about acupuncture business says something like, don't put needles on your website. That's like a given these days. But a next level ends up being, especially in this day and age where you say people want authenticity, there's a certain degree of people paying for you.
Yeah.
And that's where that trust and why things as simple as not walking into your initial appointment with a computer in front of you or staring at a form, or you should be prepared so you come in and you're connecting, with that person, so you can establish rapport, and then you can more be yourself and be the person that they'll trust. And I don't know, that's just my 2 cents. I think that's we're so in alignment there, and that's great advice to anyone, because it happens so often that's not the case, right? We don't take care of ourselves, because we're trying so hard to take care of other people.
Well, and I think holding also on that same note, you kind of made me think of something really important, is just really holding your clients as powerful. And holding your clients as smart, powerful people that can do anything. Because if you're coming in as a practitioner and thinking that you know everything and they don't know anything, that's the typical green practitioner that comes in. They're like, I have all this knowledge and you don't. And I think that when we do that, we're really doing our clients a disservice and thinking that they are not powerful and they have not been trying to heal themselves and do all of these things, right? They wouldn't be in our office if they didn't think that there was something that they didn't know. But there's also this really delicate balance of like, how can we give them what they really need, and not everything that we think they need, right? Like there's a little subtle difference there.
Well, it's more of a partnership than a white coat deity, sage on the stage kind of scenario. And sometimes that's the case, but I would be lying if I didn't say I've learned more about the treatment of infertility from my patients than I ever could from a book.
No doubt. They live it. They breathe it. They're researching constantly. Yeah. They're up on every new thing. I'm like, I haven't even heard of that. I don't know.
Yeah. If you're getting into the treatment of fertility, because you and I have both been doing that for, since early 2000s, focused practices. And a lot of people, because of the inroads that so many of us have made, in building trust with reproductive endocrinologists and such, a lot of newer practitioners I find hanging fertility treatment shingles, which is great. But there is, there's something deeper that always has to be addressed in that connection with these patients, because there's just, even the reproductive endocrinologists get challenged by their patients, their knowledge, and I mean, because they're these type A's quite commonly that will be like diving into the research papers that physicians don't even have time to read. Yeah. So you got to be on your toes for sure, right? and it's our job to try and help bring them out of that and balance them and stuff too. And we're speaking a lot to fertility, so maybe we can move past that a little bit now, because you've got, so you got out of school 2000, Portland. Here I am. You grew. Your clinic was bustling. You opened a second clinic, and that's bustling too, I assume, both in Portland, right?
I since sold the other one, so now I'm down to just one, which is good.
Yeah. I mean, practice. What you're talking about so much about what you are wanting to do, I would use the word, maybe it's more of a masculine explanation, but you're like, how can I scale myself? and that's why you're doing the things you're doing. That's why I wrote a book and online, fertility, coaching programs or whatever it's doing. And that's why you grew a clinic and trained your associates, I assume, to kind of treat the way you were having success.
Yeah. And then I got to that realm of, okay, now what? Because once you're full, you're full. You don't have any more time or space to grow. And I was like, I don't really want to open a third clinic. That was not my dream.
Yeah.
And this whole online thing started to really open up, and I realized, wow, like I could, have an online business. And so I started an online business and I started training people to do the EcoFertility method. And it was amazing. It was the most amazing gift I could have ever given myself, because these people that went through my training, I mean, they're amazing people. I was like, wow, like this changed their lives so much. Yeah. Just going through the program and learning it changed their lives, which was kind of amazing. And I was like, oh my gosh, the exponential of how many people could be helped by this work it kind of dawned on me. I was like, so every person that I train, if they use this work in their clinic, because once you learn it, you can't unlearn it. It's kind of, it changes your world. And then, right. Yeah. So then I was like, and how many people are they going to be able to help, like with this work? It's like, it's like, yeah, it proliferates in this way that's so cool. Mm-hmm. And like, it's generational. Yeah. Like when I really realized, like, I'm not just helping the clinicians be able to do this work, but they're helping their clients learn these techniques and these tools to use throughout their life. And then they're going to have babies and they're going to teach their kids this work. Right. And it's exponentially, it's beautiful. It's like this really cool thing. And I was like, so now it became like, I have to do it. I have to get it out there. I have to train people. There's no excuses for not doing it.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I wonder, just came to my mind, that because we at the start we said, amazing seeing where acupuncture you've seen it change from 2000 to now. Just the common knowledge, and almost everyone's tried it or has an acupuncturist.
Yeah.
The same thing kind of has happened at the same time, and maybe it's partly due to acupuncturists really trying to help raise awareness with fertility. I mean, the awareness of fertility and its impact and the options that are out there, et cetera, also has changed in that same little pocket of time. So maybe that's partly responsible, or because of acupuncture.
Yeah. I don't know. It's a really neat thing what's happening right now. I mean, I think the internet has just blown my mind of the impact and the reach that we can have, just being able to do this. Yeah. And I mean, now I get to play with the most amazing people ever. Like I can't even believe my clients. They're amazing change makers. They're doing things that are like leadership and, really making an impact on the world, which is, a big part of my mission is like, how can we really use this knowledge and this work that we have to change the world in a positive way? Like because some people I think are great in a certain realm. And then there's some people like myself who like, I'm never satisfied. I will never have that, like, I'm done now. There's always something that I will want to do, and how can I grow bigger? How can I grow stronger? How can I make a bigger impact with what I want to do? How can I reach more people? So, and I think there's just certain people who are like that. And so that's kind of this, and sometimes being in a practice can be limiting at certain times of your life. One of the things I think about a lot now is being able to take your skills online and be able to create something out of the gifts that you have it's almost essential for some people. Right. Like for me, like a few years ago, my mom became ill with congestive heart failure. Right. And I realized very quickly that I can't just get up and leave my practice for 6 months or a year or whatever. Like I don't even have that. I couldn't even leave for a couple of weeks at that point in time. Yeah. And I was really saddened by that. I was like, wow, like what do I do? How do I make this work? Because I want to still be able to work, but I also,
freedom.
If you have an ailing family member, it's not like, you're going to just let that go. That's a once in a lifetime thing. Or having a baby even. I was very fortunate to be able to take 4 months off each time I had a baby. Right. And be able to go back part-time. And I think having that flexibility and freedom in a practice, or having that just be a backup plan has been something that's I've been really passionate about, helping providers and people in that realm of trading their time for dollars, how they can get away from that, take their business online, take it to a place where they have something else that they can use as a backup, or even maybe a potential, evolution of their practice.
Right.
Because some people are just too small for the practice, or it just doesn't fit with what they envision their life to be like. I love to travel. Yeah. I went the first time I made a deal with myself, and I'll tell this story because it's a great story. I made a deal with my friend and myself that if I launched my program and I made $10,000, that I would go to Greece. Right. I was like, this was my big incentive to myself, right? I was like, I hadn't traveled out of the country other than Canada. And I was like, what am I doing? I'm like, I need to do this. Like, this is like, I'm super passionate about traveling. And I was like, why am I not doing this all the time? Right. And I was like, oh, because I don't have, $5,000 in the bank to take off work and buy a $5,000 trip to somewhere I want to go. It's expensive to even just take one person. Yeah. And it was like so funny because a couple weeks later I had, this money in my bank account because I made enough to do it. And I was like, wow, I guess I'm going to Greece. And I spent 10 days in Greece, and it was like this really funny thing. Like, I had made this money very quickly. I had totally created this beautiful thing that I got out to the world, and I was in Greece. I was like, wow, this is crazy. This is my life now. It was really eye-opening and like, in that way where you're like, yes, this is exactly what I want to do all the time. It was like not a question at that point.
This is what's possible for acupuncturists, and that's where your fuel came from, right? What can I try and how I would frame what you're explaining is and we've said it a few times, you're an entrepreneur. I get it. Same thing. Always that striving for more is what I would call actually creating a business. There's people that are like, there's running a practice, and that's different than operating a clinic, and that's different than owning a business. And then the next step is maturing it into a company that is profitable. But and if you do value time and freedom, which clearly you do, and I think that's the driving force behind most entrepreneurs, and maybe why a lot of acupuncturists got into acupuncture too. They thought they'd be in charge of things, where then it becomes a jail. No,
then you're just in charge of like 500,000 people.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, getting to know who you are, is a good first step. I mean, I know people that just love practice. That's all they want to do, and that's great. I'll find my 2 weeks off a year, and I'll make pretty good money, and there's people that want to kind of run a clinic and like that collaborative a little bit. Half the time it's chiros and massage and all this all together, not really a cohesive unit. And then there's people like yourself or myself that really value time, and that came to me big time after I've got 3 boys. I want to spend time with them, but I also love to work, and I want to contribute to my industry and to people and scale as well. So no big tasks at hand at all. But,
no, not at all.
But so knowing who you are, and then finding the right help, and so you're touching on how to get online, and so that would be to me a great avenue almost for a practitioner, but in particular more someone who does want to enter the business realm and have a bit of practice, have a bit of online venture, and maybe have a bit of like event or retreat creation or whatever these kind of 3 realms are. You've got something going on here, and I would love you to pitch it, just talk about it, because it is so near and dear to me right now. I am studying how to understand my presence online, and how to leverage that, probably with this exact same fervor that I study Chinese medicine with.
Yeah.
And I love it. It's super fun. But you got something that you're have packaged up nicely about trying to. I'm going to let you take over. Tell people about the signature program expert. Is that it?
Yeah. Yeah, well, it all kind of started from this like healer to leader kind of idea that I had, kind of the evolution of the healer, kind of going through the growth process of what it's like over time, and then kind of how my life turned out, where I was like, okay, well, I did the practice and I did that, and then I started teaching, and then I did that, and then I was like, okay, well, then what's the next thing is to kind of do some big ass world changing stuff, right? Like I wanted to go bigger. Yeah. And I think that what I've created has been such a beautiful thing, because now I help people, wellness professionals mainly, create high-end packages and programs and educational programs to kind of use that they can use all over the world, right, and teach people all over the world.
Scale. You're helping other people scale.
Yes. So I'm helping other people scale. Yeah. So we'll take like their, I'll usually work with people to create, anywhere from, we kind of have a sense of somewhere in the $3,000 mark package up to, $10,000. It doesn't, there's no limitation on how you can put things together, but basically taking people's unique gifts and creating a structured program or a structured offer so that people can take it online. Mm-hmm. And you can do it in person, though. I mean, I did do mine in person for quite some time. Like I'm helping someone right now create a retreat for fertility clients. Nice. And I know there's been people in the past who have done that. So, she's got this really unique location, and she's got all of these really great things that she can bring into it. So I think it's really, the cool thing is that when we're an acupuncture practice, like we all have a lot of gifts that we have that we maybe not even that we're not even bringing to the table to use in the practice, right? Like people have all kinds of backgrounds they came from. And so this is kind of this opportunity to take all of those things and create something bigger, create something that you can, serve people all over the world with. Right. So I kind of have a little tagline, taking your practice from local to global, and having that bigger impact. So you can, but the real value of it is to be able to leverage your skills, right, and use them to not just impact more people, but to make more money and to be able to have more flexibility, because you're not trading your time for dollars. It's not based on having to see as many patients as possible. Right. It's like, so now like I'll get paid, monthly, over time for something that I delivered. And so, it takes away that pressure. I can like take a couple of weeks off if I want, and I'll just stop enrolling people, and some of my products are evergreen. So like, I don't have to do anything. They just take the program and they do it on their own, and they go through it, which is pretty nice too. So just having that, giving people flexibility and freedom, I think is really what I can give back to people is giving back their time, which is something that we don't get much of in this life. And so I feel really it's so important to have that backup, have that flexibility. So now I have options, right? Like I don't have to practice. Like I make enough money online now that in doing consulting that I don't have to practice. I like to practice. Yeah. It gives me this like amazing feeling to go in there and being able to help people and support them. But now I have options. I'm not stuck in this place where I was, a few years ago, where I was like, wow, I don't have this flexibility, so.
Yeah. Practice jail a bit.
Right.
So it is, for those of you who don't understand the term evergreen is typically a term given to online programs of some sort that are automated, so you don't have to do much after it's set up. But so that is signatureprogramexpert.com, and there's signatureprogramexpert.com. I actually put together a webinar
for people so they can kind of learn the science behind what it looks like to, break down the numbers and how that looks. And that's signatureprogramexpert.com/webinar.
We'll put all these links in the show notes that you sent me. And those are live webinars or
right. They're live webinars.
Anyway, cool. Webinars are a great way and a great tool that people are using these days for the less literate to online marketing to give basically mini training. So there can be a ton of value just in going to watch this hour with Angela, and you don't have to opt into anything. But if it really resonates with you, awesome, because there's probably a deal in it for you as well. So I encourage people to go to that for sure, because what Angela is onto, if you do value your time and your freedom and you want to scale and you've got a message that you think and a skill set and gifts that you want to bring to more people or teach to more practitioners or whatever it is, I think it's your duty to, so I really love what Angela's doing here, and it's important for us all to keep up not only with traditional Chinese medicine, but what's going on in the business landscape, and that's why the Golden Cabinet primarily exists and what you're doing. So I love that. I want to. Can you give any like words of encouragement or final words? I don't want to keep you too long unless there's more you wanted to chit chat about. But final words about mentors or coach, because ultimately, there's no way I'd be where I am today if I didn't put the money down sometimes, and even when I didn't have any, to get someone who knows better to give me a leg up or raise my spirit or teach me a new skill. Or are there, obviously you advocate for the same thing, who are throughout your career, maybe who have been your mentors that got you practicing and being able to rock it there, and then more now bleeding into events or online ventures? Who are some people that you'd encourage people to maybe check out?
Yeah. So, I think, honestly, my dad has been the biggest mentor ever.
Cool.
I grew up in an entrepreneurial family. So my dad was always making something out of nothing. And he really showed me that you can literally create, if you have a good idea and you think that it might be worth something, just go for it, do it. There is no limitation to what we can, we're only limited by our own selves. Right. But as far as the technically speaking, so many people, like you said, Tim Ferriss, I've read all of his stuff, Russell Brunson, ClickFunnels. I do a lot of online marketing training because that, for me, is a big part of what I do. Big names out there, Jeff Kern, or what's his name, Kern? Who else? Yeah, Frank. I was Jeff, Frank, Jeff Walker,
We're
Frank
in the
Kern.
same world here, Angela. I love it. Yeah.
So many. I definitely am more in that, which I don't think that, I think most people would find it a bore. Right? It's not for everybody. I think that for me, I really enjoy marketing, and I've always enjoyed it. I've always enjoyed the whole process of it. But yeah, I worked with, some of my best mentors, Carrie Peters and Stacey Morgenstern. They're running the health coach revolution right now.
Nice.
They're some of the most amazing people. I worked with them and really enjoyed their work. So many, right. Kendall Hawk, let's see who else is out there that's amazing and awesome.
I'm a Pat Flynn guy. I love Amy Porterfield as well for that female side. My wife loves, Gabrielle Bernstein and a lot of that, a lot of those more new age spiritual teachers who are also bleeding into online teaching and coaching. Even Bill Barron and Tony Robbins even.
doesn't love little Tony Robbins,
Who doesn't love Tony,
Yeah. I mean, there's so many amazing people out there that are just killing it in the online market space. But the interesting thing is like they're doing business to business. Yeah. And I think for entrepreneurs and people that are in the wellness community, their biggest market is going to be business to consumer. Yeah. Like their biggest market is going to be really helping the people who don't have access to what we have. Right. So going into those underserved markets that, where they don't even know what the 5 elements are, or they don't know how to take care of themselves. They're eating, out of whatever McDonald's they can find.
Spam.
Yeah. So that's where I think like the real impact that we can have and where we can take our gifts. So you don't have to like learn all of the, the business to business stuff it's hard. It's harder and it's more,
expensive.
It's more complicated. It's more expensive than it is to do, business to consumer, where you're really reaching out to just all the people versus businesses. It's a much more easier market. I mean, you can talk to any marketing person, and they'll tell you that. They'll be like, "Don't go to the business route. Right, don't do that."
Right. Well, unless you want to be a business owner.
Yeah.
Right. Unless you want to be a business owner, then yes. Yeah. But I want to kind of put a bow on this a little bit and re-simplify for people and see if you agree with the statement that ultimately everything we've talked about is great, and there's so much that can be done, and teachers and mentors and paths to take. But ultimately, it's about the person that's inside, and that person needs to become the person that can manifest the life that you want. Does that make sense? It's about the person you become in order to achieve the goal versus just shooting at the goal. And I want to reiterate that anyone that's kicked ass in life, any one of these people we're talking about, their focus on relentless personal spiritual mind-body growth and health is
huge.
Admirable. I mean, Tony Robbins meditates. He's crazy. If you're not, that's something to look at, so. Yeah.
And I think, and that's a really great thing. And I'll try to wrap it up too here, but I could go on all day.
Yeah, of course.
But I think that for me, like I think about all of these really great, people who are kicking ass and doing a lot of things. Yeah. They didn't get there on their own, and they were not afraid to ask for help ever in their life. And they always have someone by their side that is like rooting for them, whether that's their partner or their business partner or their coach or whoever it is. They have someone who they can go to at any time and be like, yeah, shit's fucked up. Like, I need some help. Like, get me through this path, because you're going to fail. You're going to have hard times. You're going to have stuff that's messed up. And the best thing is to find the help and ask for help when you need it, and don't think that you have to do it all by yourself, because you don't. There's no reason to. Life is short,
We all need our personal board of advisors.
Yes.
Yeah, it's just a fact, right?
Yep.
For everything. Yeah. Anyway, thank you so much.
Like
I said,
Thank
probably
you.
20 minutes. Well, like I said 20 minutes ago, I should let you go. But
obviously we had a lot to talk about.
Yeah, and we could probably go on. And I think the idea is that I want to, that I've been toying with, is that I'm going to be checking in on somewhat almost a yearly basis with everyone that I interview, because, hey, what's happened? And people over time see a journey. And what might be new or changing or what's focusing on, because I'm excited to see how everyone in our industry is evolving and growing, because like you said, it's changed in the last 18 years. The next 18, who knows what's going to happen?
Right? Who knows? Yeah, I'm excited to see though.
Cool. Well, anywhere else you want people to come find you?
AcuBizConsulting, that's my main business page. And then the Integrative Fertility Institute is my other one.
Yeah, and of course Facebook, probably somewhere on there.
Yeah, Facebook, you can totally message me.
Yeah, cool. Awesome. Well, everybody check out Angela's stuff. She she's onto something here. I just know it. Everyone that I'm, learning from as well is resonating the same words. And if any of this, is resonating with you, go to Angela and check out what she's got going on. That webinar would be a great place to start.
Yep.
And yeah, I hope you have a wonderful day. I know we're on the same time zone, so we've got it's about noon now, so it's time to eat, and we'll catch up with you again soon.
All right. Thank you so much.
All right.
Namaste.
Take care.